I said, well, I know if I can really go all in on this, that we can make something pretty special here. So I negotiated a deal to buy it and bought the business in 2018. And I also said I wanted to fill the building. But I said, if I fill the building, I want to come become a partner in it too. Ooh. And he said, I'll fill these, I'll help. And John David was the realtor in that space. So long story short, we worked together, me and Jay Cobble, his partner, and we filled the building. Yeah. And so it's one of those things that just kind of evolved over time.
From the IT company, it's Made Right Here, the stories of East Tennessee founders, creators, and builders. From the idea behind it to the impact it had on the community, their employees, and their personal lives, we're taking you behind the scenes of the movements they built.
Hey, I'm Macy Brink with the IT company. We're excited to have you here joining us for the Made Right Here podcast. Today's episode is part 2 with Devin Driscoll. In Devin's first episode, we heard his story of how he hustled and worked tirelessly to make his dream of being a WWE wrestler a reality. Today we hear the continuation of this story, and we get to watch and see it unfold, and how he used his experiences from the WWE to become the leader he is today, and how he once again hustled to create something that now provides opportunities for young athletes to take themselves to the next level. We're excited to share this story with you. Check it out.
Yeah, what really stunk was the day I got back, literally first day I was cleared, I got in the room with somebody, and the guy just punched me in a match. Or in practice, excuse me. It was just a total mistake, and he punched me, Sean Osborne, in the ear. And it hurt so bad, but I didn't think anything of it. Then 2 days later, I see my ear go like this, like this, like this. And I had gotten severely bad cauliflower ear from when he hit me. From a punch. And you can kind of see it to this day. It's like squared over. And it ballooned, and there was something popped in my ear, and all this blood had just kind of rushed to it. So then I had to go to the hospital and get drained and taken out. So for 2 weeks I was out right after I got back. Oh my gosh! And imagine going to Chipotle like this, and a headband with a cup over my ear, and walking into places. You never see anybody have this in here. I'm like, hey, how are you? So it was just one thing after the other there for a while.
That's wild.
Yep.
Oh. So you were in Louisville. Is that where you were?
Correct.
And it's over. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I'm going back to Knoxville. Mm-hmm. And what happened? One thing I wanted, actually, before we go there, I wanted to, I think, identify, if I'm correct, your parents, obviously your dad's pretty successful, but there's a theme where you didn't have any money. Mm-hmm. So obviously, he wasn't, like, just giving you whatever you want. Like, you're working it.
Yeah, no, my parents have always been supportive in their own way, but... Yeah, it was one of those things, like, I was always fighting. I thought I was always fighting and like with WWE, I finally had some security. I thought, here's the thing about WWE that people don't realize is when you first get in, you don't get paid anything. Yeah. You know, it's like a baseball contract, right? The only way to make any money in wrestling is to be a top tier guy on Raw or SmackDown. If you're not making hardly any money, especially back then. It's changed a lot now to where guys in the position that we were in then now are making 70, 80,000. Yeah. Well, at the time we were looking to make 30, you know? And you're working 7 days a week. So it was, and I came back to Knoxville. I bet you had less than $500 in my bank account.
Let's talk about moving to Knoxville and professional career. What is that? I mean, obviously WWE is part of your professional career, but let's talk about there's this whole next level, and how do we get to that point?
So I moved back in December. It was December 17th or 18th. I put my notice in of 2017 to WWE, and it was over the holidays. It was a Sunday night. I had my last show, and my travel buddy, my best friend in the business time, Chris Rombola. And I said, hey man, I hugged him goodbye. I was like, I knew what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him. I said, I'll see you down the road. And he was like, yeah. I haven't seen him since. He was like, yeah. And he knew. Mm-hmm. And so I moved back home, and I emailed my boss and John Laurinaitis at the time, and I cried. My eyes out after I did it, and the next morning I woke up and I was like relieved, you know. But then I was like, well, so what am I going to do now? And so I knew what I didn't want to do. I knew, I didn't want to do that right now. I didn't want to work for my dad. I didn't want to do those things. And I always had my favorite thing to do growing up was working with kids. And so I was like, I said, well, do I go into coaching basketball? I started thought about that as well. And I was like, you love the most passion about working with kids, and I think your other most passion is just working out and training people. Like, you love training other people. It's like, so then I started applying for some positions in the areas at gyms. I said, maybe I should go down that path and use what I've learned and see what I could kind of figure it out from there. But then I started saying, I kind of want to start a business though. And he was like, wait, what? And it just took him by surprise. I was like, well, my passions were always training young people, working with young people and training. And then I kind of deep down, wanted to beat WWE in their own game. I think, just for a variety of reasons. So I was like, well, we'll figure it out. So long story short, I moved to the job at Fort Sanders. And I started researching what was, in the area niche. And I was trying to figure out, like, my biggest thing was I wanted to help young people have the opportunities that I had gotten. Mm-hmm. And so, it's funny now because fast forward to last year, I did it. My idea was to do a food truck for training, which was to buy a truck and then put a bunch of equipment and go school to school to school and train people on location. Low overhead. No overhead. I'd be able to just build a brand, and as I would scale it, I would just add more food trucks and have hired coaches to that. So that was my initial plan. My business plan was that. Huh. And I met with John David Roddy, and I wrote up this business plan I brought to him.
Why JD? Like, how did that connection happen?
I was training somebody at Fort Sanders, a guy named Phil Joseph. That was a partner of his at the time in his old business. Yep, and then my dad and his parents were really close. Okay. And so I had multiple kind of layers of relationship there. And I had met JD a couple times over the years, but like we were never super close at that point. And I met with him and I showed it to him, and he was like, I really like this. I would do this and this and this, but I really like it. So I made an individual business plan for every single high school in East Tennessee. And I went and hand-delivered it to him, each school, and said, here's my plan for you, here's what I do. And 60 days in, no phone calls. But Sacred Heart then, or FC Alliance at the time was just a crush. Now it's before FC Alliance. Their coach calls me. He's like, hey, I'm going to give you a shot. And so I went down there and I talked to a couple of the Fort Sanders trainers and said they were interested in getting some extra work. And they came with me and we trained their soccer team. And then I trained my old basketball team at Catholic. The coach is still there. So I trained them. And I started all of a sudden slowly then, it's like everything else. Oh, this person's doing this. We got who are these guys? We got to give it a shot. Knoxville, if Knoxville is those places where if like one team's doing it, they're going to make it out. So it just started kind of blossoming. And then I got an opportunity to coach my old alma mater Sacred Hearts basketball team. And I did that. And I was training kids in my apartment complex's backyard, and just kind of slowly just figuring it out. And then I realized the food truck thing wasn't what I wanted to do. And I started just training at a Cedar Bluff Rocket Club. And I started my business. And that's when I was doing it first in apartment complex, but then I was like, this is going to be a facility for me. And I negotiated a deal that was, at the time, in hindsight, man, I wish I still had that deal. But they gave me the upstairs area, like, hey, go, give us a percentage of this and we'll run. And we kept going, growing.
Was it called Next Level yet?
It was. Okay. And then, Eddie A. Raymond, who owns the health shop here locally, I said, hey, this is what I want to do. What are your thoughts? He's like, I love it. Eddie's always been a friend. And he was like, what are you going to call it? I was like, my whole thing is I just want to help kids get to the next level. And he goes, why don't you call it that? Next Level. It's totally Eddie's idea, the name.
That's cool.
And, we started going. I was at Cedar Bluff. And then they said, hey, you know what? You've got too many kids. You're too loud. You're not making enough money. I think you need to go somewhere else. Oh, okay. Well, we'll give you a week. A week, okay. Oh, wow. So I had nowhere to go, and so I couldn't find anywhere. So I called, and then finally I got hooked up with a buddy of mine when I was coaching over at Sacred Heart. I was like, hey, you can use the basketball courts. Wow. So I moved my entire business to Sacred Heart's gym for a summer. Wow. And their backyards, and people actually would go and train in the auditorium with the weights. And then after that, after 90 days of that, school's getting back in session. I got to find somewhere.
I got to kick you out. Yeah.
So I went to Exclusive Fitness, and I negotiated that. I thought I was at the closing business. I thought that was it, honestly. And then a buddy of mine called me. I told my mom on the phone. I was like, I don't think this is going to work. And then 10 minutes later, someone called me, and I got an opportunity to be with a guy I'll never forget, named Rudy Claiborne, who's no longer with us at Exclusive Fitness. Said, I'll give you a shot. Get some extra space next door. You can rent it.
Was that the...
Off North Shore. No, that was up North Shore. Okay. And that's where I met Mick Larrabee, a buddy of mine. And I started Next Level training. And then about 4 months later, I rented my first space. I was scared to death of taking on a lease. And I knew what it was then. Compared to now, it would be one thing. And I took out one spot and we just grew it over time. I mean, so basically, my lease was coming up. And
you were at
Outlet Drive.
Okay.
And Next Level was there, and I was Next Level subleasing. We had about 15,000 square feet all of it combined. And we were paying what we were paying. And our landlord at the time comes to me, it switched management groups. And they were like, hey, they were trying to sell it. I didn't know at the time they were trying to sell it, but they were trying to sell it. And I knew that Jed and Gingy were trying to sell kind of Joe's at the time too. And so they came to me, they're like, hey, listen, you're paying X. You're just coming up. We'd love to keep you. Your new rent would be double X. I was like, well, we can't make that work. We left there, and then we moved over into some space from a couple other facilities, and had a good deal for a while going, and just worked with some other people and subleasing some space and whatnot. But it was at a point in 2017 where it just wasn't going the direction I had hoped. And I had my wrestling company really taken off, frankly. And I got a phone call that asked me to go back to a wrestling profession job. It got to the point where I had to make a decision, either to go that or to training and stay at training. And the partners involved were like, besides Mike, were like, we can't leave our full-time jobs for this. Mm-hmm. So we kind of put on the back burner. And then, in 2017, all of a sudden, I was like, man, the independent wrestling scene really was on fire. I was like, let's just throw some stuff out there, see what happens. A buddy of mine, Tommy Kim, calls. He's like, I'll video. He works for Discovery. He's like, I'll do some stuff. Totally just threw it together. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, wait, I've got 600 people here. Oh, wait, I've got 800 people here. Oh, wait, we're on
at Bridgewater.
He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, all of a sudden, man, we're at downtown. We're at Boomsday, and we're drawing all the people from Boomsday. We're going to our wrestling show. It's like, wait a second, we might have some here. I got a phone call. We'd love to talk to you more about it. I'm like, oh, man. Problem was, I couldn't commit to going to that world full time. Mm-hmm. And
you were married at this point.
Mm-hmm. Had a son.
Was your son born at that point?
He was.
Okay.
And but I was kind of disheartened with some of the stuff around me on a variety of other ways. And an opportunity came, and I met with Will Bartholomew around that time, and he had the D1 building across the street from where we were using, and his thing was he had the building, but the rest of the building for D1, but none of it was being used. It was basically vacant at that point. I was like, man, it's an incredible building. It's everything I ever wanted. I just didn't have the funds to do it, and here it is in front of me. Mm. So we negotiated a deal, and I went over there, and initially went over there to manage the facility and manage the business and grow it. And I knew that we were growing as a franchise, and then I knew his focus wasn't on the local D1 because it was getting kind of down the dumps. Yeah. And I said, well, I know if I can really go all in on this, that we can make something pretty special here. So I negotiated a deal to buy it and bought the business in 2018. And I also said I wanted to fill the building. But I said if I fill the building, I want to become a partner in it too. And Will and I have become really close.
Fill the building there was also 2 empty spaces.
There was 3. There was 3 extra spaces.
So Orange Hat,
the optometrist, and the now wrestling school.
You were like, I want to do these.
You see, I'll fill these. I'll help. And John David was the realtor of that space. So long story short, we worked together. Me and Jay Cobble, his partner, and we filled the building. Yeah. And so it's one of those things that just kind of evolved over time. And I've wear multiple hats in our corporate entity, and our D1 Knoxville's thriving. So
I'm going to walk back through this for just a minute. Next level. You kind of merged Next Level into some other stuff. You mentioned something about a call from somebody from a wrestling perspective. Mm-hmm. What happened with that? You didn't do that.
I did not. I turned it down. Okay. I had an opportunity.
So you were basically facing all these opportunities and trying to figure out what to do.
Correct. And my wife and I were in a position where I had my son at the time. Was at that point he was 2-ish, 2, and I was still wrestling part time. I was still enjoying it. And, WWE had called me and it was interested in me going back and possibly wrestling. And there was still an interest and an itch to be scratched there. I met with Barry Jacobs and I talked to him about it. And so I went down to NXT and did a pseudo triad of sorts and went down there and just kind of wrestled for him and kind of see it. It was more like hey, is this something you want to do? Is something we want to do? And kind of test it out. And I wouldn't have gone. I wouldn't have even had the opportunity, I don't think, initially, if it wasn't for Mayor Jacobs, honestly. But went down there, and we're supposed to go down in May of that year. I forget what year it was, 2017, I forget. We're supposed to go down there for that, and I'm in a match back in Louisville, and OVW went back for a while to get in ring shape to do this. And the guy hit me in the head, and I was sorry, I got a concussion, didn't realize at the time. Shot me doing over and under, and I landed like this, and my knee just went out. But I was so out of my head, I didn't really feel my knee. So we got in the car. My buddy drove me up that night. Thank gosh, he drove me up. A guy named Andre Whitehead, a good friend of mine, and we're driving back. I'm like, man, kind of out of it, like, my knee hurts. And I was like, whatever. The next morning I woke up, I couldn't walk. So Dr. Mathian saw me that morning, and I had cracked my femur and tore my meniscus in my left knee.
That's a big bone to crack.
Yeah, it is. And he's like, yeah, you're going to be... So I was supposed to be down in Orlando a month later, and he's like, will that be possible? Because he goes, yeah, I don't think so, big guy. So then I had to call them, and we rescheduled it, and I went down, 6 months later. But... they really were interested in me going back, and they were kind of testing waters, and I was too, because I was unhappy with some stuff going on in my other part of my business life. But I had my son. I loved coming home to my kid, and I love my wife, and I wanted to have more children, and I just didn't feel like I went down there and did it, and it went great. And the one good thing was I got a deeper relationship with somebody who was new there, named Canyon Seaman, who was over the developmental territory. I mean, he got closer than that time there. So long story short, we decided I wasn't going to do that, and I was going to go all on this D1 deal and do that. And then a few years later, Canyon called me, and he was like, hey, we would like you to come down and work for us full time, and we're going to start doing global expansion. And we're going to open up a developmental ground in Saudi Arabia and one in India, and we'd like you to oversee one of them, but you'd have to move to Saudi Arabia or India. Long story short, there was about a week or two, maybe a little bit longer. But I kind of thought about it, prayed about it, because financially it would have been phenomenal for my family. But long story short, we passed on the opportunity, and that officially closed that door.
I forgot I had this. It's killing me. What? But you have a wrestling school still.
So what happened was, it was a Sunday. It was a Saturday or Sunday. I got a phone call from Mayor Jacobs, and I was like, hey, I don't know if he was in office or not yet at this point. I can't remember. I think he had just been elected, and he was like, hey, you got time for lunch? I'm like, yeah, sure. And we would get lunch about once a month, maybe once every 2 weeks, but yeah, I didn't think of it. But very rarely, like, hey, what are you doing right now? I'm like. So we go to Salsaritas off North Shore. I'm like, and then Tom's there. And I'm like, okay, what's going on, guys? And they had said that they decided they wanted to start a wrestling school. Two of them, Dr. Thomas, who trained me, and Dr. Tom's wife works for Mayor Jacobs.
Got it. Okay.
And so they have a very good relationship.
Insurance or in the county?
Both, actually.
Okay.
And so they threw the idea that I was like, yeah, they knew we had some space available, so they came over D1, we figured it out, and now we have a wrestling school we had over there. I think this will be going into the third year, and it's been super successful for them. So it's been great.
So you're not a part of it, you just are the landlord.
Yeah, I mean, so we've hired some of the wrestlers, and one of them ended up being one of our best employees we have now. And we're involved in different aspects of it, but day-to-day operations I'm not now.
Anything, just thinking about, and I know just, a little bit about kind of what you walked through, it's a little bit, but like, what do you feel like, you kind of had next level, like a rising star, and then, you kind of flattened out from the training perspective, right? You weren't really, it was almost like you were out of it for like this brief moment of time. I mean, you were, but you weren't. It was like a weird time.
Yeah, I mean,
and then all of a sudden you're back in it, with D1. And I know there were some tough things through it, but do you feel like anything you really learned from that experience that like has made you better in the D1 experience?
100%. What I learned probably more than anything was I got so laser focused on the accounting of my business.
Financial.
Correct.
Okay.
I've learned a lot from Will, and we're very close. And one thing he really helped me with my early years was understanding the importance of money management to a penny on every aspect of your business. Mm-hmm. And that process of a couple of years there where I was trying to figure some stuff out on that was something I should have been more focused on, but I had other hands in the pots, and there's a lot to do with that. But it made me realize that the importance of having an eye on every aspect of your business, specifically money management. And that's why when we got to D1 when I was in 2017, it even became more relevant for me. Mm-hmm. And now I think we're in a position where we're in my viewpoints over the last 4 or 5 years have been so on being so fiscally responsible with our business. I think that's why, coming out of what we came out of last year, we're in the position we're in, is because we were so laser focused on our financials. And I think that's what I took more than anything. I'm glad. There's not a single thing that's happened in my life at this point. I'm glad it did, because I feel like everything that's happening, good, bad, or ugly, has put me where I am today. Yeah. And I'm not where I want to be, but I'm closer to where I was yesterday.
Cool. That's awesome. You kind of started the business, got married, had a kid. Like, and you've mentioned Allison and your kids a couple of times. How do you think that's changed you as a for sure it's going to change you as a person, but like in your business, has it changed you and how you look at business or how you operate or how you spend your time? Like how has it affected you?
Oh wow, that's a lot.
Because those are steps, right? You get married, that's one thing.
Yeah.
You have your first kid, that's another thing. You have your second kid, that's another thing. Like these are all steps that start changing you.
I think getting married first off was obviously a huge step for me, and it was weird though. So we got married and we lived downtown, which neither of us we wanted to do that. Which we didn't have the money to do it at the time, but hey, let's do it. Sounds good. And so what was hard though was I worked 6 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. She would go in. She was working at the VLT at the time, and she produced the 6 and 11. So she'd come home at midnight. So Monday through Friday, we really never saw each other first year of our marriage.
Wow.
And then we were engaged. She was living in Bristol, working for the NBC affiliate out there. So, like, really, our engagement and our marriage the first year, like, there wasn't a lot of contact during the week together. Yeah. It was really the weekends. And so it wasn't. And then when we had our first child, the first year, he was in daycare. And then financially, it just didn't make sense for her to keep working and us to put her in daycare. Just financially, a lot of people, doesn't make sense.
It was a wash. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like, if it's a wash, I'd much rather have you raising our child. And she's my wife. Like, when I met my wife, I never realized she would be and this is not a knock on when I first met her. It's just, when you meet somebody when you're young, you never think, man, she's going to be an amazing mother.
Right.
That's just not something that goes to your mind, right? And she is just an incredible mom. Like, I can't even give it justice. But, like, I think when you get married, at least for me, it was, okay, my life's real now. Like, it's real, right? And then you have your first child, and, like, you never have enough money. You never, at least everybody tells you the same thing. Like, I don't have any money. Like, you're never going to have enough money for kids, right? You'll figure it out. How many times have we heard that?
Yeah, for sure.
But it's true. And then I think with the second one, though, we had tried for a while to get pregnant for the second one, and it took some time. And then we had our child during COVID. So we had it last June. So, like, no one could be in the hospital. Nobody could be there. So it was just every situation was so different. I just learned so many different things. But now I think my biggest thing is I can't be around my son 24/7. So I think more than ever, who he is surrounded with is so important to me. From, like, school, church, sports, like, who is around him. Because his teachers, his coaches are going to be around in reality more than I am. Yeah. So, like, that is my biggest focus with him. And then, I need to be better like we all do when we're at home with our kids. Like, that's a struggle I kind of,
disconnecting and focusing on being present.
Oh my gosh, I can't tell how many times we've talked about that. But it's just hard in this day and age, And so, like, those are hurdles I try to work with now. And then, one thing I took from wrestling is it wasn't how much you're home, it's maximizing the time that you are. Yeah. So, like, that's what I try to work on and I need to be better at, is just maximizing my time with them. Not just focusing on being with them all the time. It's also maximize the time I am.
Yeah, that's really good. How old is your son?
He is just turned 6, and my daughter just turned 1.
Yeah, I think our kids are roughly the youngest one, because we had ours during COVID, but it was in March. So I feel you. Yeah. What do you love about owning a business? Like, this is like, I feel like it's kind of in your blood, right? Your dad.
Yeah.
You've seen it with your dad your whole life. Like, what do you love about it?
I love helping, like, more than anything, I love employees. They always say is your best and your worst thing, like, and so I love helping our employees grow and reach and open their eyes to new ways of thinking. And I just love kind of building and cultivating relationships and growing partnerships. And I think you said this the other day. I think jokingly, like, I like making deals. Like I love bringing deals. Yeah, I think I like that. To me, is the most fun thing in the world to do.
Yeah.
And I love, like, when we bring in, like, we just signed a new deal with Drury Television that we're super excited about on a corporate wellness side. And that took time to do, but then, like, when you get it down, it's like there's no better feeling. Or, like, negotiating. We just got this new facility, or A3's moving to our place. Like, negotiating those deals, and it goes back to kind of like when people say, "Oh, you're gonna wrestle to be okay. Oh, you're gonna pull this off, okay," and then you do it. And it's like, I like when people tell me I can't do it. It just motivates me to want to do it that much more. So I think that's the best thing about a business owner. Yeah.
I mean, one thing I've always observed about you in the years that I've known you, like, you're a hustler. Like, I don't mean that in the, like, you hustle people. I mean, you just hustle. Like, you're out making it happen. You're a grinder. Like, you're always grinding it out. You're a really good deal maker. I don't know if the deals are any good.
They give you horrible deals.
But I know that you're always working on a deal. Like, it's like you're a consummate salesperson. You're a collaborator. It seems like you like to bring a lot of people together and put people together and collaborate. I just always been impressed by your ability to kind of pull all these things together, and I don't know. I commend you for your ability to do that.
We have a mutual friend that said something once, named Parker Frost, that I'll never forget. Though, it was the Pinnacle Awards. This is, I can't tell how many years ago. He was up for an award, and I was up for an award. And I kind of knew going in I was a long shot. I was the Entrepreneur of the Year.
Yeah.
I didn't think I had a shot to win it. I was pumped I got nominated, right? He won, of course. But Parker's a really close friend, and I was really happy for him. And I remember he goes up there, and he made a comment to this day, I forget, he goes, "The best way to grow your business is to make someone else money." Mm-hmm. And I never forgot that line he said. And I tell him this to this day. I thought... And that kind of changed my way of thinking a lot. Like, we do a lot of deals that don't do anything for us, like financially, but I know that if it can grow somebody else, that, it'll come back to us in some way, shape, or form. And so, I really do like that aspect of it.
Two things I want you to talk about before we wrap up. One is, I don't know if you're still doing it, but you were doing something where you're bringing kids together and teaching them about the business side of training or something. Yep. Tell me a little bit about that. And why, like, what's your
before I answer this, I'll keep the political thing out of it because I know it does lead into that. So I'll just
we can talk about it.
I'll just tell you.
That was the second piece. Okay.
So, frankly, I got pretty frustrated a couple years ago. This is pre-COVID, where I was going on it was Twitter or Facebook. I was Twitter, and I see all these kids that I train. They're all doing these amazing things, but they all, like, leave Knoxville because they feel like the only place they can get a career is in, like, Nashville, Atlanta, or Charlotte, and they leave here and they go out and these become these just something awesome. Like, they're an entrepreneur, or they're this, or a leader, but they're doing amazing things. And it was like, man, if we could just somehow cultivate that here, like, can you imagine where our place would be in 10 years from now? And then a lot of people in the strength and conditioning world all want to be like, I want to go become the strength coach for the New York Knicks, or for Tennessee. And it's a hard life. And, we there's two sectors of our business. We call it the public and the private sector. Private sector is like D1, right? The public sector would be a university or a team or whatever, a high school. And so a lot of kids want to do what we do now more than ever, but they don't know either how or they don't know which way to go. And so more and more kids, and I say kids loosely, but more and more young adults will say, we're saying we want to do this, we don't know how. And we have one thing at D1 on the corporate side, we do a really good job of things called operator training. So when someone opens a new territory, a new franchise, they want to hire a general manager, it has to get approved by our home office. And then once it does, they go through a very extensive operator training to become a quality GM for the franchisee, to ensure the success of the franchisee, which will in turn help the franchise.
Like financials,
operations, financials, you name it, we go through it. And so what I decided to do was to start doing that here for some of our athletes, not to that degree, but a very similar part of it. And we would talk about everything. And all of a sudden, I look at my staff, and I've got 5 or 6 people that trained with me when they were in high school. They graduated college and now working for us.
Cool.
And so I thought to myself, man, if we could do this on a larger scale, we can really offer some real value to people.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started it, and it's been incredible. We've got not only kids now working for us full time, and I say kids again, like athletes that train with me that now are working for us, that have graduated in high school and graduate college, or either training or on the business side, sales, or working at other D1s, or now in universities that we've helped get to in the area. And so it's been kind of like a pipeline of sorts, and it's just been something I take, frankly, is this almost sounds selfish when I say this, but we take pride in, because it's like we know we're setting them up to succeed, and it really is one of those things that I wanted to kind of grow at a larger scale, because I feel like, if we can do it at D1 and other people do it, it's just be incredible. And there are some people locally like Stowers Machinery here in town. They got a Think Pig program. Like if we could be a third of what they are, that'd be incredible on that side of it, what they do. So I just think that's just a great way to kind of help the next generation of entrepreneurs, because I believe every one of our employees is their own brain within our brain. I always tell them, I go, you need to be your own business within our business, because if you can understand that, then you'll thrive.
That's really good. You kind of sort of answered a little while ago, but we haven't really talked in depth at all about your failures. I mean, you've never said I did this and I failed, did this and I failed, which is fine. But you failed. I failed.
Oh, yeah.
And you succeeded. What do you think in those? And we all do. So, where do you think the most education has come from in your career? Have you gleaned the most from those things where you're like, man, that was a bad idea,
Right.
or the areas where you've really seen yourself succeed?
I mean, it's definitely failures, but I think it's a combination of both, probably. I think everyone will tell you, and on this podcast, and a lot of people will tell you, it's like, oh, you learn your most from your failures. You also learn a lot from your successes too, though.
Yeah.
And so when I find something that works, I go with it. And if it's working, and instead of just saying, okay, I double down. So I say, oh, this is working? Yeah, let's go all in on this then. Why is this working? How do we scale this? What do we do to make this better? Like, so for me, when it's not like we're throwing stuff on the wall, but if we find something that we pivot out of and it works, we go with it. A perfect example is last April. We got shut down. Think about how many training facilities and coaches and trainers like Zoom workouts coming out, virtual workouts. And I said, yeah, guys, we're not focused on that at all. And they're like, hey, what? So I said, we're going to do this called library checkout, where all the members that are members here can come here tomorrow and take equipment home with them. And we're going to write workouts for them for the whole month of April. And they all looked at me like, what? I was like, it's going to work, trust me, because they're going to realize we're investing in them, like I said earlier, and they're going to keep investing in us. We didn't go down that much last April. We weren't even open, but we came back, and it's been gangbusters ever since. And what it taught me was, when everybody goes left, we're going to go right, because being different was good in our field. So, and then, also we invested and really gave away a lot of things during that time period to people that were potential partners, and really went to bat for them. 2 of them are now subleasing space in our building, because we helped them when they needed help, and now they want to be part of what we're doing. So I learned a lot from failures, but I also learned a lot from success too. And I think the good things I learned was, going back to what I've said from day one, if you can help other people make money, it'll be the best thing for your business. So I think the biggest thing I could take from my business career was I listen more than I talk sometimes, and I think that's kind of helped me a lot.
Yeah, that's good. Man.
So,
all right, what's next?
Yeah, so I got baptized in 2018 at First Baptist Concord from our pastor, and our pastor John Mark. And it was funny because
you grew up Catholic.
I did.
Interesting.
Yep, and so side note, I'm scared to death of heights. Not people know that. I hate them. I'd rather.
A lot of tall people are though.
Yeah, going on the top rope was the worst thing. I never did it for a reason. But I never liked heights, and so we started going to church at First Baptist, and just really started feeling like a calling. So I needed to be my wife in there. And so we got to get baptized. And my pastor was supposed to do it. He was one of my best friends, and he was John Mark Harrison. And he was like, yeah. Get there. He's like, hey man, something's come up. I can't do it. Jason Zachary's to do it. And I was like, okay, cool. He goes, all right. And every baptism up to that point I'd seen was on the ground. I was like, all right, you're gonna go up top today. I said, say what? So it's like I'm top of looking at the entire congregation down there. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, there's this 9-year-old that's getting baptized with me. And he's like, it's gonna be okay, sir. He's talking me off the ledge. I'm like, I'm not worried about getting baptized. I'm like, I can't look down. So I'm sitting there like this, don't look. But up to that point, I kind of feel like I saw a lot of things in lenses that were more black and white, and now it was like color for me after that. And I just felt this calling to serve and kind of give back the way, like I always said, like Knox County has given to me what I have. I want to give it back to them in some way. And I knew, like, everyone has gifts. Like, like we talked earlier, my wife is the most handy person I know. For me, I thought my gift was working with young people and helping them. And so I said, how can I best serve those gifts? And I think over the last year and a half, it's really reiterated to me the importance of local politics and how important they play in our everyday lives. I think that's pretty fair to say to anybody that has a business anywhere. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to get into like logistics, and that's just one thing I believe in. And so between the continuing education program I talked about earlier and this calling, I felt like, man, I just feel like this calling to serve. I just, frankly didn't know which avenue to take. I started researching a little more and said, okay, where will my strengths best be used? And, one part I was even thinking school board, frankly, but I thought I'd be hypocritical when I have my son in Concord Christian for me to be in a school board.
Sure.
And I wasn't, and my son's been thriving there, and I don't want to take him out to be a detriment to him.
Yeah.
So when this opportunity arose that there was going to be a seat that was going to be open on county commission, that's something else I've been looking in great detail about. But I also wanted it to be something that was for the whole community, because we have kids in Fulton, we have kids in Gibbs, we have kids in Farragut, so and so on and so forth. So when the opportunity arose where I saw that there's going to be a county commission seat being open at large, I think between my business acumen of sorts and then like my ability to, when I'm working with young people, we have like pods, we have relations with every school in this area. And to me, schools are your communities, right? And so we kind of know the good, bad, ugly to a certain degree of a lot of the areas of Knox County. And so that's why I decided to run for Knox County Commission, the at-large seat, seat 11.
Just the at-large seat, just for clarity for people that don't know, means it's not a specific area in the community, it's the whole county, right?
Correct. So it's the entire county, and each county district has its own commissioner. So like you have your Carnes, Hardin Valley, you've got your Bearden, and then you've got two at-large seats, seat 10 and seat 11. And so that is something that I believe that I feel like I could do well at and really serve. And it's been, since April I've been forging down this path, and I've got an incredible team. A campaign manager, Dylan Miller, the Ward Baker Group out of Nashville. They ran, Senator Haggerty, Senator Blackburn, and they decided to roll the dice with me. But it's cool having some local officials that I have relationships over time that I can lean on for advice. So it's been really incredible, the support that's come, and then and we just keep coming up with more cool stuff, and we're about to announce a larger scale of that program I told you about, and I've gotten to build relationships with some local leaders I didn't even realize I have. I can't lose in this, because no matter what, if I win and I go in and I get to serve the people in that role, that's amazing. If I don't, I've met more people in the past 90 days that I would have never met without this, that I can now start forging relationships with that program, with or without the commission. I do believe that being on commission, I can do a lot of good for the community, but I also know that, the same respect is I'm able to develop relationships I never had that can also help our young people in ways I never thought imagined. So
that's great, man.
Thanks for joining us. It's been so fun sharing Devin's story and the ways that he's using his own experiences to now impact young athletes in Knoxville and the Knoxville community as a whole. We have several exciting things coming for our next episode, including a guest host. So stay tuned and join us in 2 weeks for the next episode of Made Right Here.